What's going on all you gamers? Today I'm going to be going over my in-depth review of the new game Aliens Fireteam Elite. So if you want to know if this game's worth your time, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back all you guys and girls. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox. All the latest hints, tips, guides and builds, then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon. But for today I'm here to give you my in-depth review of Aliens Fireteam Elite. So hopefully from this you can decide whether it's worth your time and money. And of course, like most games at the moment, what kind of issues there are at the launch. So firstly, if you aren't aware of what type of game this is, then pretty much picture any squad or team based shooter. I'd probably liken it most to things like Left 4 Dead or the new beta of Back 4 Blood. But instead of zombies, you're pretty much against an abundance of xenomorphs or aliens. This game is very much about fast-paced, frantic shooting action. If you have ever played the tense atmospheric game Alien Isolation, I would say this is pretty much the complete opposite of that. In this game you comprise of a squad of 3 players, and together you've got to make your way through the campaign and progressively upgrade and become stronger in order to survive even tougher encounters further down the line. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Aliens franchise, and I believe anyone who is pretty much like myself and has grown up around the films and such will probably get a little bit more out of this game than someone who hasn't seen any of the Alien movies or played any of the games before. In my eyes, this game is the perfect game if you're after a bit of chaotic fun and fancy jumping in with a couple of friends, and I say couple as it's 3 players like I said, which for some reason seems to be the standard at the moment. It's kind of gone are the days of 4-player action, and now 3 seems to be the way forward. But all in all, this game really fulfills that itch of jumping into the action, absolutely shredding your enemies to pieces with the character you've built and the unlocks you've made along the way. Now, as you can probably tell from the game's title, you are jumping into this game as a hardened marine, and after you've customised your starter character from the presets available, you'll be able to jump into the campaign, which is set out in 4 distinct chapters, each containing 3 missions. So all in all, you'll have 12 different scenarios to take on. Now, as I said, I'm a big fan of the franchise and genre, but in all honesty, the storyline to this game is definitely not what's going to keep you entertained, and most times you'll kind of just find yourself skipping a little bit of dialogue and moving from one mission to the next, as you strive to gain some more XP to unlock new perks or upgrades on your chosen character. Now, one really nice feature that is actually very similar in style to the new beta I've just played, Back 4 Blood, and that is the challenge cards. These are cards that you can gain throughout the campaign or purchase at the armory for resources you've already earned. These cards have a lot of different multipliers, ranging from extra experience and credits all the way up to unlocking new attachments. And again, they all have unique modifiers written on the card, like no heads up display or a certain alien appearing in the map, and in general I found some just truly made the gameplay all the more epic, as you were waiting for a certain enemy to jump out, or a certain situation had been completely compromised or changed because of the card you put on. The cards range from green, blue to all the way up to epic, which is purple, and most times it means if you're going to be putting them on, you'll get a higher reward, but also comes with it higher risk. Definitely be wary, as some of them are no joke and can really make you have a tough but fun time in a mission. Often I found myself making sure that I only had it on standard difficulty when I put these on, because the cards themselves made it difficult enough to not warrant any extra difficulty. Now, as you travel across locations and venture out, you'll see quite a few different location types and enemy types, from your bog standard alien all the way up to synthetics, and even some of the tougher kind of mini bosses of sorts, like armoured Praetorians. At higher difficulties, or if you're under geared, these can make for some truly tough battles. Other enemies like drones and facehuggers can have quick time events in which you, or even better your teammates, must act fast in order to save your life. Now, as well as being able to level up and earn credits faster via the challenge cards, you can also do this through tactical opportunities, which are basically your daily activities and weeklies, which can reward you with credits, scrap and even sometimes a nice attachment, or again even more challenge cards. Doing this can really help boost your character early on and give them the edge that they need to grab some nice gear and credits to spend on things. During your missions, you'll definitely notice some nice Easter eggs and nods to the Alien franchise, ranging from Wayland Corp logo embedded on boxes to larger scale things like the giant statue head you see in Prometheus. Now, some of the environments make for some really nice combat scenarios, and each stage contains one hidden cache that could net you some real nice gear and customizations. So I'd highly recommend that you have a little wander and don't just stick to the beaten path. although the game doesn't really let you venture too far anyway, so you're probably going to find these quite easily most times. Now for me, where this game truly tends to excel is in its sound effects. The pulse rifle, the smart gun and the alien sounds are pretty much bang on. As are most other things in the game, they really do sound exactly as I remember them from the films, and I feel like this really tends to heighten the combat situations in the game. Also, the gameplay, whilst far from the crispest shooter I've ever seen, it still feels really solid, and I'd say that the combat and creating the perfect character build is definitely what will keep you playing for a while if you enjoy those type of things. Now at launch the game has 4 playable character classes and a 5th being unlocked once you complete the campaign, and each of these is really distinct in its gameplay style, ranging from the gunner that is just an absolute beast at single target damage and can decimate pretty much everything including most of the mini bosses and tougher enemies, to the doc who is just funnily enough an awesome team support and can literally be a lifesaver. Then you come to the Demolisher, who I would probably say is the best class for your AoE nuker and can mow down waves of enemies better than pretty much any other. Then we come over to the Technician, who's kind of an all-rounder, but very possibly best in those situations where you've got to hold down one certain position while waves of enemies come towards you. There's also a 5th class that unlocks once you've completed the campaign, but I'll leave that for you to discover if you play the game yourself. Now for me, at its core, it's the class building that will keep people playing for a while, as you have to unlock characters or class perks as you level them up. You can actually customise them a lot more than in most team-based shooters. In fact, as your class progresses and as you go up in level, this in turn unlocks more perks for your chosen class. You can then chuck them into your grid, kind of like a makeshift skill tree, and try to format it so that you get it exactly how you want to your playstyle. Also, there are 2 different colours. Green is class based, meaning only that class can use them. Blue are universal, meaning that if you unlock them on any other class, you can also swap them in and out of other classes. A really nice touch and a great reason to play other classes in order to get the most perks that you can. I really feel like the build and customization aspects of this game are where it truly excels, and each class can really bring something new to the group play, synergising better and making for some truly great party compositions. Some however may not work in all situations, and well, especially on tougher difficulties, it may mean that you fail epically. As equally impressive as building your character are all of the weapons, and their unique attachments that you can unlock as you play. As you make your way through the campaign, you'll start to become a bit of a powerhouse, and the weapons you have equipped receive the same XP as you do in the mission, which really helps them out to level up, and these in turn gain perks all the way from 1-star to 4-star, so make sure you have items on that you really want to level up, especially if you're using those big multiplier challenge cards. Now there's also an abundance of attachments that you can find, buy and equip, making the character truly your own. Once you've unlocked these, you can use them on any of that weapon type, across any of your characters, making your builds truly your own. In fact, the only thing that limits it is the fact that each class has 2 set weapon types. These range from rifle all the way up to heavy that only the Demolisher can use. Now the game does a great job of progressing your character and building them up so that you're stronger, and you'll definitely need it, as if you're using some of those challenge cards or you're trying the higher difficulties, the game can become truly tough. And some things like the quick time events can really dwindle your health or even one-shot you at later levels. Once the campaign is completed, you will unlock Horde mode, which can really test your mettle as waves of enemies attack you in an ever increasingly difficult scenario. Now at launch, as far as I can see, there's only one map, unless once you complete a certain amount of waves it goes on to the second. I myself haven't completed it yet, so I'm not entirely sure. But as in most games, Horde mode is really nice thing to add on to a game, and this one is very much the same. It's real fun, and later difficulties again, you're definitely going to need a lot of teamwork because there's a lot of tough enemies coming at you, and there's a very high chance that you're going to be taken down. Now if I were to leave this review here, there's a good chance that you'd be looking through the store now and looking at the game's lower end price of $34.99 in the UK at least, and umming and ahhing whether or not to buy it. Because honestly, what this game does, it does really well. However, no game is perfect, and Alien's Fireteam Elite is definitely no exception. In fact, there are a lot of bugs in the game at launch, and I'm not talking about the Xenomorph variety. I'd say the game could do with a patch pretty much as soon as possible. I myself have had audio bugs where the sound of gunfire or a certain noise constantly repeats. I've had friends saying that they've had a constant flashing white light on screen, so bad that they've struggled to get through the mission. I've also had an instance where the map went completely see-through and it was as though I was walking in the air. I actually quite like this, as usually you kind of fall to your doom, but with this one it allowed me to walk around and look at certain things like chests and such before it shortly rectified itself a couple of rooms over. But again, definitely not something you want in your game, especially if it happens when you're in a firefight. Also, the connections are very unstable at the moment. Even when you're playing with friends, often it can kick you out and it can be an absolute pain. I've had it myself when I've lost quite a bit of experience and it kind of resets it, can't work out that you've done it. Also, you can tell it's not really a AAA title. A few of the animations, like vents falling from the ceiling, happen far too often and take a little bit away from the atmosphere of the game. Sometimes when aliens appear, they seem to be very generic in the way they do, and I've had it a couple of times when 5 or 6 of them have fallen from an air duct and have the exact same animation. Also, at one point further on in the game, I had realised that they'd reused the exact same map and staircase to do a kind of completely different mission, but using the exact same layout, then chucking over a few extra aesthetics to make it look a little bit different. Also, one really key aspect at launch is the matchmaking, or lack of, should I say. You can play with friends or grab some people from, say, a looking for game function like the group finder on Xbox, but the actual in-game function for it just doesn't work at the moment. It's completely broken. And sometimes even when you're playing with friends, it can still kick you out or go wrong, which is a pain because when it does, if you have put any challenge cards on, you lose them. Also, I've had it once where I lost a bit of experience that I'd previously gained because the game couldn't work out with one of the autosaves. But again, if you're trying to matchmake with other people, the game just comes up as Fireteam is full. Very odd, and definitely something they're going to need to patch as soon as possible. In fact, even when I tried to play single player game, I had to put it into private mode pretty much to start it up at all, which took me a little while to work out in the first place. Now, another thing kind of coming off of the matchmaking, I would highly recommend, if you like playing games that are single player, to pretty much avoid this one. In my eyes, this game is definitely not a solo outing. Now, don't get me wrong, you can play with 2 AI bots, and at lower difficulties you could quite easily complete the campaign, but it will feel a bit bland and boring, and at higher difficulties these AI just don't cut it. Quite often at higher difficulties you'll fail a lot of missions, most times because you're going to be needing to heal them up with your medikits, or you're going to hope for some help from them and swiftly turn around to find out that they're doing something random. Definitely not the way forward. I would definitely say this is a game best played with friends or people online, as most of the enjoyment from this game comes with playing with other people, having a laugh as you try to best overwhelming odds, and by making some truly great builds that come together and work well to synergise in a team. Now lastly, while not game breaking, one thing to note that is just straight up annoying are the flamethrowers in game currently. I spent pretty much everything I had on a flamethrower, upgraded it fully, decided to build completely around it even in my skill tree, because in my eyes the flamethrowers are really second to none in this game. They can do some crazy damage, the damage over time is good, and they're just a lot of fun to dwindle down the enemy's health. However, after playing 2 missions with 2 of my friends, they promptly asked me if I could swap it out. When I asked why, they said because they pretty much couldn't see anything with me playing with it. I thought to myself it probably couldn't be that bad, and well, after they showed me, yeah, I was wrong, you really can't see anything. If somebody on your team is even remotely close to you with a flamethrower, you may as well be looking up at the sun, as your screen is going to be bright orange. Maybe if you're in a horde mode, or if you're completely away from other players, you may be able to get away with it holding off a lane on your own, but if you're in amongst it, if you're near your other players, these definitely aren't the way forward, just for the fact that they do tend to intrude on other people's visions if they're aiming for those crit shots and such. And especially at late game, if you're on a really hard difficulty, I'm guessing they're probably going to nuke your team with that team damage. All in all, this is a real shame, as I feel they're probably the highest damage or one of the highest damage guns that you can use in the game, and an abundance of fun to use. But at the moment they're very hard to put into team play. Like I said, you may be able to put it into a horde mode, but in general kind of campaigns they'll be difficult to get away with most times. Right, so hopefully I've pretty much covered everything there, and although I finished off with an abundance of issues with the game, funnily enough I still can't get enough of it. I really enjoy playing this game when it's working properly. Unfortunately, at the moment it does have a lot of issues like I've stated, and there's a lot of times when you're kicked from the party or you lose a card and just have to reset your computer to get back in. All in all, whilst Alien Fireteam Elite is definitely not the longest game in the world and has an absolute abundance of issues, I still find that this is a game I really do enjoy playing, and I think it's worthwhile if you and a few like-minded friends are after some frantic fun. You could do a lot worse. The only thing I would say is at the moment it may well be in your best interest to hold off for a little while to see how they patch it and if they fix some of the problems that are really frustrating at the moment. But as always guys and girls, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, take care, I'll see you on the next day.